Greetings, vinyl community. I'm here today with vinyl finds and a tale of woe. Not really, but it felt like it at the time. So this is yesterday's vinyl finds from the local record shop, and I've got two by Charles Lloyd. Love In from 1967, recorded live at the Fillmore Auditorium in San Francisco. This is the quartet with Keith Jarrett on piano, Ron McClure on bass, and Jack DeJohnette on drums. So, very fine quartet. Liner notes telling us about the circumstances behind the Charles Lloyd Quartet playing at the Fillmore and grooving with all the wonderful young kids because the hippies know where it's at. This does feature a little salute to the youth culture in the form of a cover of the Beatles song, Here, There, and Everywhere, played as a bossa, with Charles Lloyd on flute on this track. And I think Charles Lloyd's flute playing is not really up to scratch on this album. I wonder if maybe there was some difficulty in hearing himself at the Fillmore's acoustics, what their amplification level was like there, because he does seem to be overblowing, and that causes the tone to be kind of harsh and the pitch to be not really great. Saxophone playing is brilliant, so particularly on the first track, Tribal Dance, wonderful, wonderful sax playing from Charles Lloyd. And from roughly the same period, the earlier original version of the quartet with Charles McBee on bass, and plus Jarrett and DeJohnette. This is a recording from Oslo in 1966, but not released until 1971 in this wonderful psychedelic cover. The flowering of the original Charles Lloyd Quartet. There's the group with producer George Avakian at the top of the walkway there. On Columbia, Orchestra USA Sonorities. This is a sort of orchestra / big band project directed by John Lewis of the Modern Jazz Quartet, doing third stream classical jazz fusion pieces, compositions by John Lewis based on Swing Low Sweet Chariot, The Spiritual. Very cool arrangements. There's also a piece by Jimmy Giuffre on here and a piece by Teo Macero, among others. And this is a demonstration not for sale copy. And it was formerly owned by a guy who I'm seeing a lot of classical stuff, obviously sold to the store by the same seller, that all have dates written on the inner sleeve in pencil, presumably of when this album was played. And it seems to go two plays in 1966, one in 67, one in 69, 71, 73, 76, 79, 83, 86, and 89. So it's like going from a couple of plays when it first came out to 2-year intervals to 3-year intervals. It was like, was he cycling through his collection to get such regular plays? Or how does that work? I mean, the kind of guy who would write the dates on the inner sleeve might have the same OCD it takes to cycle through the collection in a strict rotation. I don't know. Archie Shepp, live, not live, but life, at the Donaueschingen Music Festival, recorded at the source of the Danube River in 1967. And the Archie Shepp band on this recording is a quintet featuring 2 trombones, so a 3-man horn line of Shepp on tenor, Roswell Rudd and Gretchen Moncur on trombones, Jimmy Garrison on bass, and Beaver Harris on drums. Got a gatefold cover with 3 of the folks pictured. You see Archie Shepp, Roswell Rudd, and Jimmy Garrison, but no Beaver Harris or Gretchen Moncour, even though there's a lot of white space that can be used for photographs of them. I don't know what's behind that. This is on the MPS label. And the album consists of one long piece spread over the two sides. One for the Train, parts 1 and 2, 22 minutes per side. Although it does go into a very recognizable tune. In the middle of side 2, Archie Shepp plays a full chorus of The Shadow of Your Smile, with the other band members falling in behind him in the good ballad tempo, after which the music takes a sudden right angle turn into a completely different feel and very propulsive, fiery style, as befits most of the music here. But before the side is over, they go back and we get a reprise of The Shadow of Your Smile. Kind of a witty arrangement, and that's how it goes. Moving on to the classical world, Beethoven, the Septet in E-flat, performed by the Vienna Octet. We don't know who the Vienna Octet might consist of because there are no names of any of the musicians. So you just wonder who in the Vienna Octet didn't get to play in the Septet. It's a very fine piece of Beethoven's 6-movement composition. I have heard this performed live at Davies Symphony Hall, and let's bring up old Ludwig van himself to give his imprimatur and seal of approval. And one more, Chants de la Renaissance, or Songs of the Renaissance, by Claude Lejeune. This is on the Nonsuch label, and I'd actually been looking out for this, and I managed to spot this copy in the bargain bin. What's interesting about this LP specifically is that it is apparently the first release on the Nonsuch label. It's catalog number H71001, and on the inner sleeves, when they would have lists of all their titles, this would be the one that's listed first. So I just think Nonsuch is a very cool label, so it's fun to have the first release. So that's what I picked up yesterday, and I thought I'd made a pretty good score. All of those were dirt cheap. I didn't pay more than $5 for any one of those albums, and a couple of those were out of the classical ones were out of the 49-cent bin. And Archie Shepp, man, I never find cool jazz stuff. Well, not never, but seldom find cool jazz stuff like that at this store. So I brought these records up to the counter, and the clerk, this young kid, says, "Oh yeah, we got a bunch of good jazz in. Not so good for my pocketbook." I said, "Oh really? What did you get?" And he said, "Well, oh man, there was Alice Coltrane and Eric Dolphy and Archie Shepp and Pharoah Sanders." I see you got an Archie Shepp. Mingus, I got Mingus at Antibes. I go, you got all the John Coltrane, all the later, weirder stuff. I said, "Oh, Alice, what Alice Coltrane did you get?" He goes, "Oh, there were 3 of them. There was that, the orange one with her sitting." I said, "Oh man, Journey in Satchidananda." Know the title, dude. That's like one of the top items on my want list. I've been hunting for those OGs of those Alice Coltrane albums on Impulse for years, and they're not cheap to come by. And all the stuff that he's talking about, not the Coltrane so much, because I have all that later John Coltrane material on Impulse, or most of it. But he was just hitting me with all of my favorites. I was thinking, oh, what I missed. All the stuff that I'm really looking for, and suddenly the score that I had just seemed like a shabby selection compared to what I missed. And I know I should be grateful for what I found and happy about getting that stuff, but I just felt like shit walking out of that store. I was depressed. It ruined my whole day. I'll find that Alice Coltrane album somewhere. But, damn. Okay, I'm over it now. Other stuff. A year or two ago at that same shop, I stupidly passed up a copy of Quicksilver Messenger Service Happy Trails on the original Capitol Rainbow label. So a couple of weeks ago, when I spotted this copy, I went ahead and snagged it. This is not an original on the Rainbow label. This is a later pressing on the red Capitol label. Still very good. Great psychedelic relic. And right behind it was Just for Love, Quicksilver's Let's Move to Hawaii and Mellow Out album, featuring the classic Fresh Air, aka Have Another Hit. This also has the band kind of being taken over by Dino Valenti, aka Chet Powers, aka Jesse Orris Farrow. Most of the songs on this album are credited to Jesse Orris Farrow, except two of them are credited to Dino Valenti, who is the same person. It's funny to have two different pseudonyms used for Mr. Powers, which is apparently his real name, on the same album. Great cover art. This is the only Quicksilver album I actually owned back in the day. So, nice to get that one. Jan Ackerman from Focus. This is a solo album from 1974, I think. Doesn't say on the back. '72. There we go. On the Sire label. Very nice instrumental, kind of proggy, fusiony. Not a million miles away from Focus. They had another, I think it's self-titled Jan Ackerman album, the one where he's in bed with a guitar, which is a bit more of a funk-based fusion affair, which I didn't buy that one. Love It to Death, Alice Cooper. Not an original, so there's no thumb poking out of the pants, and there's the blurb, including their hit I'm 18. But it is a green Warner Brothers label. So an early version for all that. This is in fact more or less the same version that I had back in the day, so cool to find. And this is a great album. This is the one where the Alice Cooper Band, as it would become known, really came into focus, because their first album, Pretty's For You, was very weird and very psychedelic. The next one, Easy Action, was a bit more of it was basically a transitional album. They're starting to move into the more hard rock style that they would become known for, but it was still fairly weird. This one is where it really came into focus. They've got Bob Ezrin producing and playing keyboards, and there's no overboard production. It's not like Bob Ezrin doing The Wall or the first Peter Gabriel album, but he really brings Alice Cooper into focus here, and we get a lot of great songs, some kind of progressive epics like Ballad of Dwight Fry and the long, jammy kind of Doors-like jam of Black Juju with the creepy organ all through it, courtesy of Mr. Ezrin. What a bunch of sweeties. Just look at them. And a particular favorite deep cut of mine on this is Second Coming, which is about Jesus, written by Mr. Fournier himself, the preacher's son. Very cool Alice Cooper album. Skeleton Crew, some avant rock with Tom Cora on cello, Fred Frith on guitar, and everybody playing everything else. Zena Parkins on organ, electric harp, accordion, drums, and singing. Yes, Tom Korat, cello, bass, accordion, drums, contraptions, and singing. Fred Frith, guitar, six-string bass, violin, homemades, drums, and singing. This is very noisy, sort of desperately yelping vocals from Mr. Frith. Really enjoyable album of very oddball left field stuff. Albion Country Band, Battle of the Field. This is a brilliant classic album of Brit folk, and the personnel is just a real supergroup of the British folk scene of the 70s. It's Martin Carthy, vocals and acoustic guitar, Sue Harris, vocals, oboe, and hammer dulcimer, Ashley Hutchings, who of course put together the various incarnations of the Albion Band, on vocals and electric bass guitar, John Kirkpatrick, vocals, Anglo-concertina, button accordion, melodeon, and electric piano, Simon Nicol, of course from Fairport Convention, as was Ashley Hutchings, who had also done Steel Eye Span. Simon Nicol on vocals, electric and acoustic guitars, electric, dulcimer, and synthesizer. Whisper it low. And Roger Swallow, drums and percussion. And there are all the folks. It's a 1973 recording, the only one released under the Albion Country Band name before they dropped the country part. And this was released in 1976 on the Antilles label in the US. And here's a very folky release on the Bay Records label from Oakland, Jody Stetcher and Friends, Snake Baked a Hoe Cake. And there's some very familiar folky bits on here. It opens with the well-known Wedding Dress song. Great track on here, Leela Leela, a wonderful sing-along piece. Comes with lyric insert with notes. That was a Discogs find. This was an eBay find. Alex Klein, solo percussion music, Not Alone, double LP from 1981 on the Nine Winds label. And it is what it says on the label, solo percussion music. Mostly kit drums, but some other things happening. It opens up with a lot of bells and tinkling, and that provides a suitable invocation for Alex Klein's very spiritual, kind of new agey approach to the solo recital format, but it's a lot noisier than a new age album would be. Stanley Clarke, Journey to Love, some classic fusion, a little soul singing thrown in. He's got a guest appearance by Mr. Jeff Beck. It's from 1975 on the Nemperor label. I love the Nemperor label just because they give you a different color on side 1 and side 2. On ECM, another classic label, of course, 1973, Gary Burton and the New Quartet. That new quartet involved Mick Goodrick on guitar, Abraham Laboriel on bass, and Harry Blazer on drums. A very gray cover. And this one came, very belated receipt of the Floating Points and Pharoah Sanders collaboration with the London Symphony Orchestra, Promises. Great album, very meditative, cool packaging. The label ran out of copies immediately, so I've been waiting for this second pressing for months after I think my pre-order was a bit late. I ordered it on the what was supposed to be the day of release, I think. Finally, one more from the classical world, Also sprach Zarathustra of Richard Strauss, performed by the Chicago Symphony with Fritz Reiner conducting. And of course, there is that iconic opening, the 2001 theme, or the Elvis Presley concert theme, but it's a great piece of music all the way through. So this is another one from the bargain bin, the local shop, on the RCA Red Seal label in living stereo, which is so much better than dead stereo. I do not advocate the use of dead stereo. I would institute a boycott against dead stereo. Living stereo is the way to go. So that's what I have to show today. Thank you very much for watching. Be well, and I will talk with you again soon. Bye-bye for now.